Wednesday, Wellness Wednesday.
Welcome, welcome. Thanks for attending.
We are so glad you took time out of your day to come and chat with us, listen to us, just experience this presentation we're going to do today that is on tips to reset emotionally. And it's in the context of wellness. So, really looking forward to sharing that space and community with all of you today. We have been having a little bit of technological issues, just like internet stuff. So hopefully, as we continue this together, the internet's just gonna cooperate with us. But if not, we will try as quickly as possible to pick back on and reorient and let everybody back into the room and pick up where we left off. That's sort of our contingency plan if anything changes.
Yeah, so we apologize in advance if for some reason you missed some syllables here and there. I don't know. The internet is acting wild today, so
It
hopefully it
really
does.
is. Really
It
is.
gets enough. It gets enough.
The internet is in need of some wellness. Okay, that's what we're working with today. All
There is
right.
a transcription button as well. So if you turn that on your side, you will be able to see what we're saying as you're attending. So just keep that in mind if you're wondering what we're saying as well. You can participate in the chat box. Your video and your mic won't be on, but you'll be able to participate in the chat box or even drop some questions here in the Q&A. Both are at the top of your screen.
Yes. And so, without further ado, we're just going to jump right on in. So, as we mentioned, welcome to Wellness Wednesday, tips to emotionally reset. My name is Tanya Lloyd. I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor. I'm also a Maryland board approved clinical supervisor. I'm a doctoral student at Bowie State University. So, go Bulldogs! And I am a doctoral clinical intern with Allow Health. And who is joint presenting and enjoying space with us today is Dr. Marybeth Heather, and I'll let her introduce herself as well.
Hi, everyone. So I am the CEO and clinical director of Allow Health. I'm also an LCPC, which is a licensed clinical professional counselor. I'm a nationally certified counselor. I'm a Maryland board approved supervisor, as well as a nationally approved supervisor. And I'm certified in DBT as well, which is dialectical behavioral therapy. That's that alphabet you all are seeing at the end of my name. So there are things happening. I am just appreciative of all of you that are able to join us today and connect with some wellness tips. I know that the world is changing so much and we just have to recalibrate sometimes. It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot. So hopefully we can find this time to recalibrate together.
Yes, that is the goal. Also, we love feedback. So please, again, like Dr. Heather said, drop it in the chat. You've got some thoughts. There's some time at the end. We'll have like a Q&A, but we love feedback. We love thoughts. If anything resonates with you today, if anything that you're like, hey, I can kind of apply this, or I'm looking forward to trying this, let us know. So here's our sort of formal welcome and our plan for today. We're going to do a little bit more in-depth introductions. Obviously, we introduced ourselves, our roles. We're just going to share a little bit more about how we connect to wellness in particular. Also, next, we are going to go over setting afternoon intentions. Then we're going to cover what is wellness, why do we do it, wellness and mental health. And then we're going to get into what you're all here for and excited about, our tips to recalibrate, to emotionally reset. We'll spend a little bit of time going over how we can all connect with community and do those tips as well in community. And then we just have some closing reflections and, like I mentioned, a question and answer session. Again, feel free to drop your questions in the chat at any time, and we will take the time at the end just to look and see what we can answer with the time that we have left. And then finally, we're just thanking you for your time, for being here, and for sharing this space with us. Our learning objectives for today. So when you walk out of here, well, log off, you hopefully will be able to know the 8 dimensions of wellness. Also identify and learn 3 specific methods to support your mental health and your wellness, and then exploring the impact of wellness on community. So, like I mentioned, a little bit more introduction in terms of how we connect to wellness. So, as I said in the beginning, I'm a doctoral student at Bowie State University. Again, go Bulldogs! And so, a lot of my research and work that I am doing really goes around how are we promoting wellness, not only in counselor education, but also within student bodies, within the community at large, looking at different cultures and how they incorporate wellness practices. And on a bigger level, what do we do as a society to incorporate wellness? I think it's huge. There's a lot of work out there on burnout and how everyone is feeling heaviness and overwhelmed. And so, looking at wellness and the concept of we know what it is, what are some of our challenges and barriers of being able to implement it, to make it part of our lifestyle, as opposed to just something to do when we notice things aren't going well for us? And Dr. Heather, why don't you take it away on your part of how you connect with that?
Yeah. When I'm thinking about wellness, I think about how I have to keep checking in with myself throughout the day, whether
Yes.
that's in the morning, right when I get up, making sure I'm not just cycling into work before I even get out of bed,
Right.
right?
Right.
Taking a lunch break and actually a break away from a screen at some point during the day. As a telehealth provider, I am on the screen all the time. So I have to intentionally take myself away from it and really integrating with my family, my friends, and the community in different ways. Because it's so important to just remember that you just don't do it one time, to like keep checking in with ourselves. And I love the image you have here. It's like, hello, hello. Are we okay? So, hello. Maybe not. I think so. We're not sure. Those kinds of things. So you just have to keep checking in. And I hope that by the end of this little webinar today, you'll be able to give yourself those little hellos.
Yes, and that part you mentioned too about connecting with family, friends, a lot of times, and we see this not only in the work that we do, but also in our personal lives. Sometimes connections can be really difficult. They can be complex. They can be frayed. There's distance. And so, hopefully, too, what we touch on is how you can encourage connections, even if it looks different based on where you are in relationships with yourself, with other people, with community. Yeah. So our next slide is going to focus on setting an afternoon intention. And before I play the next slide, there's going to be some music throughout here as well. I wanted to give a little overview of what an afternoon intention looks like. In the context of wellness, when we think about intentions, a lot of times people get them confused with goals. And intention has more to do with this is something that I would like to do for myself. Sounds very similar to a goal. But the thing about an intention is it can be evolving. It can be something that in this moment, I can intend to have a great presentation. And within the next 5 minutes, it can be I'm just intending to make sure the internet works. So it can evolve. Intentions also are personal. So there's not going to be a time where either one of us are like, share your intentions, because it is something that is personal and evolving for you. How it connects to wellness, though, is it's thinking about a particular area in your life where you have an intent to having a different outcome. And so you pause with that as you're thinking about when I want to make an intention for my afternoon and I look at an area of my life, what is something that I'd like to be a different outcome?
So think about this for yourselves. You're not required to put that in the chat box. This is more of a moment of reflection, right, Tanya?
Sometimes with goals, they can sometimes get complicated because we might have a goal that's based on a demand we have to meet. We might have a goal that's based on a milestone. But an intention is a little different than that. An intention has to do with, as Dr. Heather said, a reflection, something that makes you go, this is for me. This is an outcome that I want that is just for me? And like I mentioned, it is okay that it evolves. It's not something that's like, well, that was my intention. I had to stick with it for like 30 days. No, an intention can be done with in a passing minute, but it is taking the time to say, this is an intent that I have. Being conscious, being deliberate about it, keeping it personal, and also culture specific. So after you've taken some time to reflect, like we said, we do not need to see it in the chat. You might want to jot it down. Maybe you have a note next to you, put it in a cell phone or any other type of device that you have by you, and keep this just for you. Let me go back. I want to make sure I right where we are. Okay. So how intentions connect to wellness. When we're looking at an intention around wellness, we want to kind of define what is wellness. What does that even mean? So these are some, I saw them as awesome. Hopefully you'll also maybe agree, but if not, that's okay too. Definitions of what wellness is. A holistic integration of physical, mental, and spiritual well-being, fueling the body, engaging the mind, and nurturing the spirit. Another way to look at wellness is it's a way of life. So rather than a one-time thing or an activity that we've engaged in for maybe a few months out of the year, wellness is how you intend to live your life. Looking at that through optimal health and well-being. I like to be really clear though, when we talk about optimal health and well-being, we're not dictating it by some standard. We're not looking at it like, well, the Surgeon General said this is the optimal way to live. We're looking at you reflecting for yourself, makes the most sense for me? How am I achieving optimal health and well-being for myself? In order to do that, you have to spend that time connecting with you. You have to spend that time reflecting on yourself, figuring out what are some areas in my life where I'm seeing a discrepancy, a difference between how I'd like to be versus where I am. What are some areas of my life where I'm maybe experiencing challenges based on what I feel is what I should be doing versus what I'm actually doing? And so when I think about those things and I think about orienting my life in a way that's toward optimal health and well being, it's being consistent and in alignment with myself.
I see Christina's loving the second one, Tanya. I don't know if you saw that in the chat.
Oh, no. Loving the second one. Yeah.
Yeah, loving the second one. And even sometimes what I think about, Tanya, is the kind of the flip of other words that you might interchange with wellness,
Mm.
whether that's mental and physical hygiene might be one that you think about, or a lot of people, use self-care, which then sometimes people are like, oh, self-care, right? Similar with wellness. Sometimes people feel like that about those words because we can overuse them. However, if you get into this and you think about it being more of a way of life, it just has a whole different vibe, right? You're like,
Yes.
I am like focusing on how I can be well, and not only for me to be well, for me and my community to be well. Because if I'm well and my family's well, and then my family and friends are well, then it's all going to have this interconnection of support and wellness.
I love how you mentioned that part about some of those like buzzwords that get thrown out. I think that's an important conversation to have because a lot of times I feel like wellness gets lumped into a category where people think you have to have a certain level of income or you have to have a certain level of access to be able to have a lifestyle that's well. And that's very much sort of like put out, I think, in the media and society.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of images around that. And to your point about if I'm not well, then that affects not only me, but affects my community. It affects how I engage with people and how they engage with people. And so if we reframe that idea, if we constantly are like sort of resisting against this idea that wellness is like you have to be able to go to a spa. Like that's not wellness. I mean, that might be an idea of somebody
Right.
relax, which is fine. No judgment there. But wellness is this idea of if I need to rest, if I need to be getting more sleep than I'm currently getting, I should have access to that. That's not something I need to be in a completely different tax bracket, or I need to be in a completely different racial group to be able to get quality sleep or to be able to rest when I realize I'm exhausted and I'm burnt out. And so I think it's so important that we have those conversations, um, and constantly being aware of when certain terms get thrown out. And we're like, wait a minute, does that mean I don't get to participate in it? Wellness
Yeah.
and is for everyone. It's for everyone. And it's a fundament it's one of those fundamental pieces I think that we really need to emphasize. So with that, as of now, I'm sure this might also evolve because, like we said, wellness is always evolving. There are currently kind of 8 dimensions that are certainly being studied as it relates to wellness. And so I like to just kind of give a brief overview of some examples. Um, and feel free to drop in the chat too if there's maybe another dimension that you're like, hey, this might fall under wellness, or if you have any thoughts around these. So with physical wellness, again, I think most times the association is like this has to be some sort of exercise, but really it has to do with having time to reflect about what makes you feel in your body better. What types of movement or different ways of moving your body work with your lifestyle and what complement your lifestyle. So for some people, that can look like taking a walk is something that calms the mind, calms the nervous system, encourages the parasympathetic nervous system, allows people to sort of connect with nature. For other people, it might be a run. For other people, it might be, simply just like tapping my hands gives me that feeling, or giving myself a really nice warm hug, and giving me that comfort and that support in the moment. So with physical, you're constantly checking in about how does your body feel and what helps support your body. With emotional, that's looking at more so how are you thinking and feeling about yourself? Where's your self-esteem? How do you kind of evaluate your role in society and your worth to yourself, not measuring it against anybody else? The other things you want to think about is kind of looking through like your lens of how you see the world with a measure of, do I feel hope? Do I feel encouragement? And if I don't, understanding that that doesn't mean you're at a deficient or any sort of thing, but you want to sort of be able to reconcile, can I feel all the range of emotions? Are there times when I hold myself back or I suppress emotions? Or sometimes I'm intentional in certain places that I'm in where I'm like, nope, I'm not allowed to express that emotion. And so I don't. When we think about emotional wellness, we want to make sure we are opening ourselves, we are getting support to be able to access all the emotions that are available, and constantly kind of checking in with ourselves about where we feel about things, how we feel about things. Social, that really has to do with that community piece, as Dr. Heather spoke about earlier. When we are feeling well, when we are consistently in that space of wellness, our community benefits from that. So, how you are connecting to your community is very personal, it's very intentional. Sometimes that has to do with your cultural background, not sometimes, all the time, and active roles and spaces that you put yourself in to feel connected. Sometimes there's a moment where you feel disconnected, not even a moment, maybe a lot of times where you're just disconnected. And so when we notice that there's a gap when it comes to social wellness, it's like, what am I doing? How am I forging connections? How am I putting myself in activities or opportunities where I'm building those connections and community? And also, where do I see myself in being able to express who I am in my community? Really deep, really things that take time to kind of flesh out and require that personal reflection. We've also got intellectual. So this has to do with how often we're engaging in creative exercises. Are you doing things that are stimulating your mind? Being a student, and I don't know how many people have joined us today that also may be in the student role. Sometimes you're in classes and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't think my brain can take any more. Also, typical kind of working throughout the day, if you're in that sort of role and you're like, oh my goodness, it's hitting this like monotony where I just feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again. Those are signs our intellectual wellness can be struggling when we're not getting that mental stimulation that we would require and that our brain needs to encourage creativity and wellness in that capacity. So, with intellectual wellness, you're really looking at what are areas that I may need to encourage that. Sometimes people think intellectual can look like, oh, I got to start a new hobby. I've had so many conversations where, like, maybe stamp collecting will be my thing. Um, Maybe it will be, maybe it won't. But taking the time to reflect on what could be a new activity or what could be a new area that my brain is going to receive this creative and mental stimulation is necessary with intellectual. Okay, so the last few we've got vocational. So looking at your relationship with whether it is maybe a traditional workforce sort of arrangement, whether you might be retired and you're sort of re-examining what does my life look like when I'm not necessarily in the same pattern that I used to be in uh, with a workforce pattern. Maybe I'm retired. Maybe I'm currently looking for a job. Maybe I'm about to enter the workforce. Kind of really spending time to look at what does my relationship look like with the workforce. And knowing that, again, as we spoke about earlier with wellness, this is personal. This isn't something that you want to compare yourself to others. You want to be in a space where you're going, well, this person's done this. I need to be doing that. This is the time for you to reflect on what makes the most sense for me. Another area about vocational wellness is alignment of values. A lot of times it can feel like a privilege if you are in a working environment where maybe the values of the company are in alignment with yourself. Not everyone has that experience. And so please understand this webinar is not about, oh, please go ahead, leave your job. Not saying that, definitely not co signing that. It is taking time to reflect on when it comes to my relationship with work, when it comes to environments that I'm in where I may have to be in a professional role, are they in alignment with goals that I have for myself, my values that I have, and kind of reconciling what changes I can make or suggestions or support I can get when I notice there could be a difference or a change. Last few, I hope you guys are all hanging in there with me. Environmental. So this has to do with recognizing with the interconnectedness. We are all connected. So when I am doing any sort of motion throughout my day, that is having a profound effect on the environment, which is then having a profound effect on my community and continues in this whole circle of life that we are all in together. So when you're looking at environmental wellness, you're looking at living a lifestyle that's respectful to your surroundings, and recognizing that we all have responsibility for the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, the communities that we live in, and creating environments that are safe and inclusive. So no matter where we are or what places we find ourselves in, that is a responsibility that we all have, and acknowledging what steps we take to encourage that. Spiritual wellness. So, this has so much to do with recognizing what harmony looks like. Harmony sometimes can feel like another buzzword. It's like harmony is just this thing over here that we just all ascribe to be, but maybe we don't ever get there. Um, but it's deeper than that. It's recognizing when I prioritize wellness, I prioritize alignment. I prioritize making choices and decisions that are in alignment with how I feel and how I think. I have to be in a place where I'm self aware, where I am able to sit with myself and I'm regulated to be able to make those connections. Certainly having relationships with a higher power or being engaged in different religions, that can definitely be an added benefit. But spirituality really has to do with how am I connecting not only to myself, but my community at large and participating in activities and engaging with people in a way that's consistent and authentic with who I am. And the last piece is financial. So this is kind of I don't want to say it's a big one because neither one of these dimensions is bigger, smaller than the other. But it is one that I think deserves a good amount of time to chat about because sometimes with financial wellness, we can get caught up in the self-care, terminology where it's like, hey, self-care. So that might mean you have to spend a lot of money on things. Not at all. Financial wellness really has to deal with how is your relationship with currency, specifically money, or giving and taking with others? How are you seeing ways that when you look at how you spend money or how you save money or decisions you make about money, how are they connected to you? What sort of situations do you find yourself spending money in or engaging in different types of money or saving money? What does that look like for you? And if you see that there's a space where you're like, I value this, but I notice my actions look a little different than my values, trying to figure out how they become in alignment with each other. And
I
those,
love all of these.
right?
I I think what's so important about the 8 dimensions is to know that they kind of impact one another, right? You can kind of start to say, "Oh, I'm not feeling like I have a good relationship with money today." And then your emotions start to flare up and you feel unbalanced. And then all of a sudden, multiple dimensions are being impacted. And that's when you have multiple dimensions, which is what the research is about, right, Tanya? Then it's
Mm-hmm.
like, whoa, hey, we really got to check in, whether that's with a counselor or a provider or a community member, a clergy person, like somebody for support family member, and figure out like, okay, I have to recalibrate. And even thinking about the environmental piece as we're having this here on beautiful Earth Day here in 2026, it's thinking me, right? Thinking about how what is our relationship with the environment and how we can connect and feel well in their space, whether that's in an urban setting
Mm-hmm.
or a more rural setting, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
still have to feel like, okay, I live in a like comfortable neighborhood and I feel safe when I'm going outside, what no matter where you're at. So all of these are just so interconnected and have so many levels.
Yeah, it makes me, now that we're going through it all, I'm like, well, maybe we should have done the intentions after the 8 dimensions. But as we said, intentions are evolving. So if any one of these dimensions clicked into you as you heard examples or heard the interconnectedness, feel free to change your intention. Feel free to shift it. Let it
Yes, you can have an
evolve.
intention for the next few slides
The
for the
next slide.
remainder.
Perfect. Yes. Love it. So, why wellness? Why, of all things, are we talking about wellness today? Number one, it encourages attunement, it supports healing. When we ensure that we have a wellness lifestyle, we are moving towards what is optimal for our individual and community health and healing. It also encourages parasympathetic regulation. So I mentioned kind of in a brief example about resting. And so our parasympathetic nervous system is all about digestion and rest. We're so used to talking about fight or flight and looking at our central nervous system in that way. When we think about the parasympathetic nervous system and its role to help our body slow down, be in a space where we can really just rest, and that's tough to do. We very much live in a society where it is, hey, the early bird gets the worm. And so often it's like, okay, but can I be like the midday bird? Like does the evening bird also get the worm? Because like sometimes not everyone is like, bam, I'm a morning person and I have to be first one out the gate. But that's tough when we live in a society that puts a lot of pressure sometimes on having to be the first or getting things done in a certain time frame. And so when we think about that, there has to be a level of balance where you're encouraging yourself to rest, to pause, to give yourself time to think. And then finally, with wellness, it's promoting extending our overall quality of life, which is what we would certainly all sort of want to encourage and enjoy having a quality of life that is one that feels good.
We're going to get there, Tanya.
One
We're just going to
step
keep
at a time.
practicing
One step at a
wellness.
time.
Keep practicing it. It's like one moment, one breath,
And
one day at a time. It's like,
one intention at a time. That's
it's
it.
like, all right. And sometimes that's just a few minutes, right? Or even 30 seconds. You're like
Yes.
waiting for something. Like, I'm waiting for the call. Like, I'm going to intend to be in a good place.
Shouldn't be on edge. Gotta be resting. That battle, right? That battle.
Yeah.
And so we've touched on this already, so I won't read the whole thing, but I want to leave the slide up just in case anybody wants to read through it, how our wellness connects specifically with mental health. Um, Highlighting when we talk about like normal stresses of life, we very much have to recognize this is not a normal time that we live in, and we are by no means minimizing the daily stress it is to wake up and be a functioning member of society. And so when we think about wellness and mental health, we are talking really about checking in with yourself, noticing where there's an awareness and some gaps, and how you can best get that support, not just for your mental health, that is key, and also encouraging a wellness lifestyle. I love this part at the bottom where it's like supporting both our individual and group capacity to decide, form connections, and influence the world we live in. So if anybody was thinking about or is currently in the career of like an influencer, when we talk about wellness and mental health, living your lifestyle, how you engage with people on a daily basis in your community, that is having far reaching impact and power when we're using it for the collective goal of supporting wellness. So I'd like our presentation today. All right, so we are going to touch on the methods that we can do to reset ourselves from an emotional base. Music is huge. I didn't mention this in my intro, but brief intro. When I was in undergrad, my minor was in jazz voice. I was definitely the kid that my family was well aware. I was like, I'm going to Broadway. That's the goal. I just need to get my big break, and I'm going to Broadway, and that's what I'm going to do. Um, that did not happen. That being said, music has always been an incredible influential space in my life, and how it connects to wellness is key. Specifically, music and the brain have this incredibly powerful relationship. We have seen plenty of research that speaks to how music can stimulate different areas of our brain. For example, the hippocampus, which stores our memories. Certain times you're listening to a song and it might connect to a positive memory, which then increases this level of dopamine hormone in your brain that makes you feel good. Sometimes that music can bring out a sad memory. And so that will kind of give you an emotion that might notice your mood changes a little bit as you're reflecting on things. Other things about music are lyrics. So how we connect different lyrics can tell us a lot about how we express ourselves and our stories that we have. So when we think about what does music look like for an emotional reset, one of the things to check in with yourself is, what do I need in this moment? So, for example, I was rushing, right? Definitely not activating the parasympathetic nervous system, and running out of the car door, accidentally slammed my thumb in the car door, 0 out of 10 stars, like don't recommend it. And so yeah,
No.
horrible, horrible, horrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Had a full day, so it wasn't one of the situations where it was like, oh, well, I can just like, that's all right. No, it was like, have a full day. What do I need in this moment? Didn't need medical care, thankfully. But I needed something to kind of reset where I was so that I could go forward through the rest of my day. And so I asked myself, what do I need? Do I need something to soothe how I feel in that moment? Do I need something to kind of move my body? Or do I need something to just vibe? And vibe can look like I am really angry and I'm resentful or frustrated about something, and I need a song that's just going to help me vibe that out. Movement can look like I just feel really tense and I just feel really stuck, and I need something that's going to allow me to just relax my body and move. Or soothe. I could be experiencing just like really heavy emotions or just a sense of overwhelm or dread, and I just need something that's just going to help me relax and kind of sit with those feelings so that I can process them a little bit better and maybe have a connection. And so music can do that, which is fantastic. Certain things you can do with music. You can create a playlist. So I have come across many people where they're like, I have a playlist for Mondays, dealing a little bit with like the Sunday scaries. And so to kind of emotionally reset on Monday, they have a Monday playlist. And these are songs that are filled with songs that create like a vibe so that they can reset their emotions to get through their Monday. That's one example. Another thing can be attending or sort of in your community, if you have any sort of music classes and you just have an interest, going and listening to music at any time. And also, if you're kind of like, I'm stuck in a certain genre, I only like this type of music, maybe exploring a different one and checking in with yourself about how do I feel after I've heard that music. Next, 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 if it feels most of your body, one of
Tanya,
the
I'm
things.
having a hard time hearing you right now all of a sudden. I think our
Oh
internet is
no,
interneting. You came
no.
back as soon as I said something, so hopefully that
Okay,
fixed it. We just had to call it out.
we just had to call it out. Okay, internet, hold on. We just got a few more slides. A few more. So, with movement techniques, we are really looking at how to move in a way that complements and feels authentic to ourselves and our body. The thing about movement is you're not trying to do anything that doesn't feel good. You want to feel good with your movement. So, if you notice anytime you're moving, there's discomfort or there's something that's like, this doesn't feel right, that is not the movement you need to be doing. That is different, though, than the initial potential awkwardness. If you are somebody who's like, I don't typically find myself engaging in movement a lot, and so it might feel a little awkward. And that's okay. Like, understanding when we ever were trying something new, it doesn't always happen very smoothly. Sometimes there are a lot of like curves and sideways and roadways we have to go to get somewhere to try something new. But the benefits as it relates to movement and wellness, there have been so many studies where wellness has been indicated, where movement has been indicated to increase focus and motivation. So if you find yourself, if you're currently in a role like a student or in a certain workplace where you're like, I sort of hit a slump midday and my motivation is gone, I'm having a hard time focusing, even doing something like getting up, moving, shaking. You saw like my little side to side shoulders, a little bit of shoulder movement, can be enough to get your brain to go, ooh, this is exciting, and can help turn that sort of moment of frustration or decreased motivation around and encourage to get through the next moment. So it's a great way to reset. So one of the things I wanted to throw out, and this is props to Dr. Heather. We can't actually play the song because of copyright laws, but if anybody's interested, there is a song called Breathe, Stretch, Shake, Let It Go from 2004. I have used this a lot of times with clients as well, as myself. And so when you're thinking about doing this movement, and by the way, feel free to join in. If you have your camera off, that's totally fine. You don't need your camera on to do this. But we can do this together just so you have an idea of what it looks like. So the song is Breathe, Stretch, Shake, right? But in the song, they go through breathe, stretch, shake, let it go. And it's so interesting because there's like some dancing, but having those, I guess we could call them all verbs, being connected to our wellness. When we take a breath, do that all together. So inhale for one, exhale for one. We've got that breathing. Stretching any way that feels good, whether that's like stretching across your body, stretching up your body, giving yourself that big round hug. Then we're getting to shaking, kind of preemptively did that. So that could be a little bit of a shoulder shake, a little bit of a side to side, and then just letting it go. Just let it go. And for those of you that are, definitely way more dance inclined than I am, you can speed it up. You can keep it at breathe, stretch, shake, let it go. Or you can slow it down. Breathe, stretch, shake, let it go. So I do encourage you, if you do like any sort of like hip hop genre of music, or if you don't, you just want to hear the song, there's an instrumental version as well. And try to just practice that. See how you can incorporate that as a way to sort of reset. So just like this big question asked, how have you paused today? Was very intentional about pausing before I went into this next slide. Um, the last kind of method we want to talk about today is mindfulness, which kind of very simple explanation is it's just the practice of being fully present and aware of your current experience. Linking it back to again, to practice in mindfulness, you do not need to have a certain income. You do not need to be of a certain group or class system in order to be mindful. It is really about checking in with yourself, being in the present moment, and being aware of your current experience. One way that we incorporate mindfulness daily is just pausing, being intentional about where is my pause throughout my day. Dr. Heather talked about, being in front of a computer like for an extended amount of time for anybody that may be engaging also in remote work. There's a moment where unfortunately sometimes it just feels like you were working 24/7 because you're just like, let me keep going, let me keep going, let me keep going. And so when we think about pausing sometimes really looks like stepping away, closing your eyes, and just taking a second. Just taking a second. Where am I right now? Am I aware of my current experience? I'm not thinking about what I have to do after this webinar. I'm not thinking about what I was doing before the webinar. I'm just thinking about where I am right now and being in this webinar. Another thing one can do with mindfulness has been chanting. Chanting can look like having a word that you can associate, um, whatever feeling or I want to say sort of like motion that might be authentic to you and kind of just saying it. There's no sort of time frame and like you should say it 20 times, you should say it 15 times. You really have to sit with what's authentic to you. You might need to only say it once. But the idea with mindfulness is you are focusing on that phrase, you are focusing on that word, and you are being present while you're saying that. So one another song that I really enjoy is from India Arie and her album Songversation Medicine. And so there's a song she's singing called I Am Light. And so light can mean a lot of things to so many people. For me, it focuses on what I associate with is this idea of just being free. Like I don't have anything that's making me feel bogged down, that's making me feel exhausted, that's making me feel burdened. So when I think of I am light and I'm being mindful about saying that, I'm being very intentional about how am I releasing the stress of the day, releasing frustration, releasing any sort of burden that I am carrying that I need to reset. So, another plug
Yeah.
to check that song out.
I know your history with music is shining today, right?
Oh, it is. And if we had more time, we would be singing. We would have a whole
Oh,
thing. We would be singing.
oh,
We would
watch
be doing,
out.
yeah, group singing online. It's a vibe.
Oh,
It's a
oh,
vibe.
I love it. You can feel the vibe in your body, And and with mindfulness, you'll again, I know we talked a little bit earlier about things being buzzwords. I know sometimes mindfulness can come off that way. Really think about it being the observer, learning how to touch base with yourself and think, okay, what's going on? How am I feeling? What are my senses telling me? What is my environment telling me? What am I telling myself, or how am I interpreting what other people are saying? And you can do that, as you're saying, Tanya, with so many different things, just checking in with yourself. You're using the word chant. Sometimes you might see affirmations as a way. Sometimes you might see it listed as a mantra. And mindfulness, there's so many things you can do mindful, whether that's eating, walking, just being active too. It doesn't always have to be just sitting and being quiet. So if you're more of a mover, as you were talking about with movement earlier, mindfulness can engage in that as well in different ways. There's like thousands of things we could do. We could talk about mindfulness for a whole week, I'm sure.
Yes. And we still wouldn't have even scratched the surface, I feel like.
Yeah, it'd be like mindfulness for American culture would be very different than other places as well.
Yes. Yes. And recognizing that the more we take the time to sort of sit with and figure out like what approaches can work for us individually, the more we are kind of what's what I'm looking for. You're like broadening that connection across different cultures as well.
We're all about the broaching, right, Tanya?
All about it. All right. So as we are getting ready to sort of close out and transition into our question and answer session, if there are any questions, and hopefully we have answers because that's the goal. I like to kind of leave some reflection questions again for y'all to think about why this matters so much. Why does wellness matter so much? And so the thought is you're kind of asking yourself, are you going to accept yourself as you are or expect more from yourself? And with the expecting more from yourself, it's not meant to be a question where you're like, how can I do more or be more? It is about recognizing that I deserve to have wellness. I deserve to have wellness be a part of my lifestyle. And when I expect that of myself, I am expecting more of myself. If I'm somebody who previously might have thought wellness is something that is not attainable for me, or it's not something I'm able to have. So you can accept yourself where you are, and we encourage that. And you can also, if you're someone who might be in a space where you're like, I didn't think wellness was something that I was supposed to have or engage in, expect more for yourself. You deserve it. Another way to think about wellness is, are you going to embrace the present where you are right now, or consider your future and what your life will look like and can look like by making sure you're prioritizing and incorporating wellness in your life? Are you going to care about yourself or overlook yourself? So we already know what overlooking ourselves looks like. Caring about yourself is that intention of making sure you are incorporating wellness to support you, your community, And by that, supporting our entire experience together. And so if anybody's interested, these are some resources. Like I mentioned, some of the songs that were part of our presentation today. So if you'd like some further reading, I'm happy to like cut and paste and drop that in the chat if anybody wanted some more info on that. And then we get to gratitude for, again, y'all sharing your afternoon with us. There are a million places you could be or be doing, or just activities you could be engaged in, and you took the time out to be here with us, and we appreciate that. And so thank you very much. Thank you for your time, your space, and your energy. And if there are any questions or comments, please drop them in the chat. And if not, we just wish you so much peace and wellness throughout the rest of your day and all your days.
Yes, thank you all for coming, thinking about your wellness and engaging with our practice today. We really appreciate it. We'll hold on here as y'all are thinking about wellness and what's happening for the next few moments. Some others typing in the chat. Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming.
And again, so this is hosted by our practice, Allow Health. We are a virtual telehealth group practice right now. So if you are needing services, you are able to join the wait list right now because we are packed up, but we're more than happy to give other information if anybody needs a referral or needs other support. But definitely come and join us and let us know what you need. We are a growing practice, so we'll have some more clinicians soon enough to see other folks and really focus on wellness because there's so much just happening in the world. It's exhausting.
Yeah, it's very overwhelming.
Yeah, we have to just stick together and do our best to find that community wellness. Omar, thank you. She's saying you both made so many good points. Wellness is tough because we're going against 400 billion diet industries. Oh my gosh, tell me about it. Especially with all that. Is that dollars or times?
Oh, yeah, she said dollars. Yep. Yep.
Which is almost synonymous to wellness now. Yeah, and so many people are taking just a lot of medication for wellness too. Yeah, I'm glad that helped you. Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
All right. Well, thank you all for the comments and the feedback, and again for coming and engaging with us today on this Earth Day. Hopefully, as we focus on our wellness, we'll be able to help community wellness, whether that's just in your home, your family, your chosen family, or those networks that you're involved in, whether that's a nonprofit or business that you're in, or church or temple or mosque, wherever you're connected to. We just hope that you can find that balance because it's just so key to have all those dimensions and revisit them. It's not a one-time thing. To keep going back and saying, being that observer, like, how is this working for me? What's happening?
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and end the event since I see the comments have stopped and I don't see any questions here in the Q&A. So I'll go ahead and end this for us today. But thank you all again for joining. And oh, I see one more going. And that's it for us. Yeah. So thank you, everybody. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.